The life of a Tottenham fan can only ever be enjoyed for 24 hours maximum, if that. The worst possible news has come our way. The one player who is irreplaceable from within our squad is now out for 3 months, and people are questioning the chairman again as to why he didn't release the funds for a better and younger backup goalkeeper. Meanwhile, reports today that we're interested in one of Wolves' stars, and we'll be discussing that Man City drubbing in more depth on today's episode of the Spurred On podcast. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. We are live on Big Up. Get your comments and questions in. If you haven't been on Big Up yet, come and join the Spurred On community. All the details as to how in the description box below. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do give this video a like and subscribe for daily Tottenham content. But my first guest on Big Up is here, a regular on my YouTube channel, Jorri. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. Apart from the news, like you said, didn't take long for the party to be over, and now it seems to be over. So, not over, but it's a big worry.
We'll discuss whether it's over. I'm just going to bring some quotes coming out today and some thoughts. Spurs apparently stunned by the news that Vicario had suffered an injury serious enough to require surgery, given that the player seemed to have shaken off the pain to carry on in the first half and beyond. Now, Jorri, I want to ask you a question that I know has been doing the rounds a little bit on social media over the last 24 hours or so. Is this a slight embarrassment on the Tottenham medical staff that they weren't able to spot the likelihood of a fracture on the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, it is now that it's a reality. I mean, of course, things can happen, but the problem is this medical staff has been for a long time under suspicion of not being at the top of the game, So it's another one that goes to the L column,
And just talked in the last few weeks though about having changed a lot of the medical staff, and we certainly got rid of the head physio who'd been at Spurs for a long time. I mean, I guess. Look, frankly, and I assume it's the same with you, I don't know anything about physiotherapy, and so I shouldn't really claim anything. But the fact that it's a fracture, that's the thing that comes to me is like, surely, other than like doing an ACL or popping your hamstring or whatever, to work out that the pain is strong enough for a fracture, surely should be spotted. And if not, is that just Vicario doing a kind of almost like what I would deem to be a Romero and kind of saying that it's not as bad as it actually is?
I wouldn't think that, but I agree. I mean, I'm assuming they have their own X-ray machine there and stuff like that, because I mean, this is something they deal with regularly, or at least have a service nearby to. So you shouldn't be screaming bloody murder before you get that picture taken, it is a bit of a weird one. Of course, we saw him land there in the game, and he, maybe that's the origin of it, but often these things, especially when it's like a finer fracture, it's often something that's built up over time.
That's true, actually. That's really true. Let me play devil's advocate to myself though, and say, did they by hook or by crook make the right decision to leave him on because he made some absolutely vital saves in the game?
For sure. We wouldn't have had that moment, that historic moment, without him, I'm sure. But I mean, I don't blame them that much, but I mean, this is news to me that Hans has actually rotated some of the staff, which is good news, because I've been suspecting this for a long time, and it's good to see that Hans is the guy to get it done. Mourinho couldn't get it done, and Conte couldn't get it done, and they both complained about the medical staff. So it's good to see that at least Hans is getting it done. But I mean, these things happen. What is the kind of I would say the bigger embarrassment is that the board, they took a gamble and it didn't work out, and
Well, they took two gambles, really, didn't they? Because they didn't have a backup for Udogie at all, really. I mean, other than the fortunate part is that Jed Spence has kind of shown willing to put in the effort this season, so he's now the backup. But in terms of getting a goalkeeper, they were just kind of trusting a luck that nothing would happen. I should say Sligo Spurs in the comments has said, I'm very disappointed in the injury. My first concern is Vicario, full stop. That is a fair point. Of course, we should, of course, think first about Vicario. Seems like a good guy. He actually said on his Instagram, sometimes football gives you its highs and sometimes it challenges you in ways you don't expect. I played 60 minutes at the Etihad with a broken bone in my ankle, giving absolutely everything I had for the team. Unfortunately, there was no way around this one. I needed surgery. I'm disappointed I won't be able to help the team for a while. A massive thank you to the doctors and the staff. The operation went well, and from tomorrow I'll be working hard to come back stronger, fitter, and ready to give my all for you again. Thank you to the Spurs fans for all the love. See you soon on the pitch. So, he's keeping it positive. And yeah, like Sligo Spurs said, we should think about Vic first.
Of course, and may he get better soon for all of us, but just for himself as well. He was starting to show a lot of improvements on the few areas where he's maybe been a little bit shaky. I've always liked him. Even with the crosses and stuff like that, I felt like, yeah, he's not strong there, but I felt it was compounded by the disarray in our defensive organization on set pieces. So yeah, I mean, I really like the guy and I want to see him back as soon as possible. If you gotta try and find the silver lining in this now, there's no excuse. Now you really need to pull out all the stops and get a really viable reserve goalie in at this January. There's no other way to get through the season without that. I mean, I'm sure Foster will put in his best efforts, and from time to time Foster shows good form, but he has some glaring weaknesses, and certainly for handball he's not the right fit. So yeah.
He also, for me, that's absolutely true, I think, in terms of certainly with the ball at his feet, but also he just seems to, I mean, he is like, 35, 36, 37 even or something. He does get down to shots a lot slower. And one of the things that is rare, I think, in top-level goalkeepers, it's very rare that they're not really top-notch shot stoppers, but I think Forster has lost a little bit of his agility down the years. I should say a lot of kind of people were talking on social media yesterday about, can we get Navas in because he's available on a free transfer? But I think it was Dan Kilpatrick came out today, said regarding suggestions that Spurs should explore the free agent market for a stopgap. Whilst the club isn't prohibited from doing that, any prospective signing couldn't be registered until the start of the January transfer window anyway. So there's basically no point doing that. And just to go on about that kind of number two that we'd look to bring in then, Jorri, what do you think? What do you think we will be looking for? Do you think it'll be another goalkeeper with experience or someone like an up-and-coming goalkeeper? I have to say, Chelsea have basically stockpiled some of the most exciting young up-and-coming goalkeepers in Europe and then kind of putting them out on loan in various places. Is that the way you would go? Or would you go for a kind of older, maybe more like Ortega, more like Martinez was at Arsenal?
I wouldn't say older. I would definitely go for an up and coming. I mean, you could go the route. If you were really ambitious, you could go the route and say, and we're going to bring in one that's as good, maybe even better, and make Vicario, fight for his spot.
Like Arsenal did with Raya.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen, don't you?
I'm pretty sure it won't happen. Lange might pull some brilliant goalie out of Scandinavia or something like that. Yeah. So I don't mind it being a similar kind of storyline as we had with Vicario, somebody nobody had heard of, and then turning out good. But
that was a Paratici rabbit out of the hat.
It was,
wasn't
yes,
it?
yes, true. But I would say if you're going to go for seniority, it needs to be seniority like 28, 9, and be really and basically supersede Vicario to be then the captain of the defense. I think. Otherwise, you should go for a young, super talented guy and just try and scrap it out with maybe Foster and that guy until Vicario's back. So
Forster is more like the Scott Carson third keeper who shouldn't ever play any games, isn't he? Really?
He's, and I'm sure a big factor is how good he is to have around, just in the clubhouse and all of that, and he seems like a very positive and good guy. So I don't think, not even Levy looked at him as a viable long-term second goalkeeper. I just think they rolled the dice on this, and maybe Ans was on board with it, in terms of, okay, I can then spend on something else now, and let's take this chance. But yeah,
it is worth saying, just looking for some positives if we can. Ange did take Joe Hart from Tottenham at Celtic, who obviously at that point had basically, I think he's even talked about how he felt he wasn't sure if he had a role within football as a modern day goalkeeper at that point. And now in the last month, he did an interview on 5 Live and talked about how Ange basically reawoke his love for the game by teaching him how simple it was for him to draw the man out, play an easy pass, or just chip it into central midfield. So the only thing I can kind of hope is that the worrying stuff we've seen from Forster has been because he's not played more than 1 game in a row and he's got no rhythm, and that hopefully, knowing that he's going to have to play 10 games, maybe he can get he can get used to it a bit more.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think Forster is a terrible goalie at all, but he is too slow to get down to the corners, which is the main kind of threat in Premier League today. I think it's the low corner shots, but and also he's a big unit in general, so his movement is slow. So when you're talking about exactly stepping and finding your feet and passing quickly, he's going to be slower than Vicario. Vicario wasn't a virtuoso at that either, but he's going to be slower than that. So we're very far from an Edison or anything like that, now. So, and I mean, the other positive you might draw for is that this will maybe also force, or not force, not that, but it will kind of commit Ans and the squad to adapt and maybe keep to the little bit lower defensive line that we've been playing lately. And I mean, the best example was last game, of course, how brilliantly that worked out. Because also, like we saw with Radu and Ben Davies and so on, they can contribute, and both of them actually were brilliant in that game. So not only can they contribute, but we can actually have a really, really good defensive game in that manner, and that would also then support a weaker goalkeeper at the same time, So yeah.
Jorri, I love that positivity. I'm not quite sure I can get on board with it as yet.
Well,
but
let's see how the games go.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Talk to me after the games, right?
Yeah, let's see what happens on Thursday night first. David17 in the chat says, I kind of thought with the club giving Brandon Austin a new contract that he was maybe ready to be a backup, but apparently not. There are 2 of those young keepers who are, in their early to mid 20s who've never played a single game for Spurs in the first team, bar some preseason stuff. That I don't really understand that. One, I don't understand what they're thinking with those 2 players. But then secondly, I mean, other than I guess being like training partners, but secondly, the thing that frustrates me a little bit, and then after this we'll get off the goalkeeper topic, but what frustrates me a little bit is that actually in the early days of Pochettino, we made sure we didn't let this happen because they brought Michel Vorm in as part of that Ben Davies deal. And Michel Vorm at the time was a Premier League number 1 at Swansea, and we brought him in to be Hugo Lloris's number 2. So we've done it before, so we shouldn't have taken that risk, don't you think?
No, I mean, Barnaby, let there be no mistake about it. In any campaign, the most important player is the goalie. That's just how it is. And you can see every winning team that's gone through tournaments with the international squads or legacy teams that's had league win after league win and so on. It's all basically starts with a world-class goalie and probably also a world-class center back, and from there they build the rest, and this. So we're going into a period where we're definitely going to be much more exposed, but on the other hand, it's also gonna mean that we need to then rely even more maybe on the Ant's mantra, which is to outscore, so like I heard the one tweet during the game there. It was 4-0 and or 3-0 maybe, and it was like, 7 more goals and I'll feel safe,
Yeah. I mean, that's
so
it.
we're into that kind of country now, I think.
No, that's it. I was saying exactly. I think it got, it was literally 4-0. I think on like 89 minutes. I was like, I don't think even Spurs. I don't think, or maybe 3-0 at 89 minutes. I don't think even Spurs can ruin it from here. Just to say, guys, we're going to talk about the Man City game now. But if you guys at home who are watching, if you want to get in the chat like Sligo Spurs, like David17, and like Ali, get in there and we will answer your questions live on this stream. And if you're watching on YouTube, go into the description box, click on that link, join the Spurred On community on Big Up, and you can get involved with my daily Tottenham Hotspur news shows as well. But Jorri, bigger picture question for you then. Firstly, how did we beat Manchester City 4-0 at the Etihad? And how surprised were you? Or was this the moment that you've been talking about for quite a while where it suddenly properly clicked and we had that statement win?
I mean, I wasn't that surprised that we won. I mean, it's kind of in the script almost, So, but the way we won and by how much was shocking, of course. I think we all can admit that, but really even more than the goals, because it could have been in 5 or 6, and also City could have had 2 at least, themselves. It was the manner of the performance, the manner of the fight, and the attitude. It was the lack of respect that the whole squad showed the City players. So yeah, I do think it's definitely something. There's definitely it is the Ant's philosophy getting under the skin, but the only problem is it gonna stay there, and I think as we all know it, it's called the decade and all of that now. Decky, of course, was the heart of that, I think, and his attitude and his comments after the game kind of reveals kind of what it is, and I also think Matters was fantastic, but his comments also reveals a little bit of what we need to go away from. And I don't mean to take the joy from anyone or anything like that, but Decky is talking about almost like, I don't care about this anymore. Let's get on to the other one. We need to do this all the time, every day in training, whatever. Like, this is in the past. Now we move on and we kill everything in front of us in the same manner. Whereas Matters rightly, I mean, talked about enjoying these moments and so on. And I agree with you. You should definitely do that. But also, we shouldn't enjoy, even the fans shouldn't enjoy it beyond the fact that it's that game. We haven't achieved anything.
No.
We need to keep that clear. Nothing has been done right. Okay, you might say, we achieved a historic victory over Man City and over Pep. We put a little side note in Pep's legacy for sure. But that's not really anything. And this is also, things have annoyed me to no end, is when we talk about the great stadium and the facilities and stuff like that, and I love it. But for me, it's like, now you need to be that team that lives in such a place, We can't, that's not an achievement to have the house. Now we need to be the people that live in the house,
No, that's actually right, and absolutely right. And actually, Jorri, you were one of the first people to kind of really pinpoint for me the kind of change in Kulusevski's attitude. And I completely agree with what you're saying, actually, which is although I want to give Maddison a little bit of grace just because it was his birthday.
I mean,
it was his birthday, and also I think he was being asked a lot of questions in that kind of pointed way. Whereas I think with Kulusevski, even if he is asked questions like that, he is so like Zlatan-esque now that he's just in, and actually some of the quotes here's a quote on from Decky on the win against Man City. He said, "I believe because in the past years we've gone there and played really well. So this is the game I look forward to most in the year, and once again it happened. So glory to God." I mean, that for me that's a perfect example. He's saying the game I enjoy the most is the hardest game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like what you're saying, Matters is just like, oh my God, games like this don't happen all the time, so let's enjoy it. And I agree. Decky went on to say, because City have a lot of the ball, so sometimes we can rest when we defend. There's also so much space up there. We play one-on-one, and then it's always dangerous because we have a lot of quality. It's always great to play great teams because they always want to play football. When you play lower teams, sometimes it's not. There's not much football played because there are a lot of fouls, a lot of injuries, and it's slow going. So listen, I agree with everything, but also I want to hear Kulusevski, I guess, next time being like, what, and maybe he did say this in another quote or another interview, but basically, we have to try and enjoy playing against the lower teams and enjoy the opportunities that provides us with in the same way as he does when there's loads of space. Got to find ways, both him and Maddison, to pick those locks and improve those performances.
Yeah, I think I heard quotes in kind of in that manner of maybe not enjoy, but we have to play in this way against the lower teams as well, and the thing where Kulu is, he's in a place where he enjoys the pain with the suck, the hardship of it, and that's so far from many players. And I'm not saying Maddison, I'm not rightly, we shouldn't, I'm just using that because those are two really clear quotes. And they, to me, kind of show where the attention is, the attention is, and also it reveals a little bit about your own belief in yourself. Is like, if this is a moment, like for Kulusevski, it's like, yes, this can happen. This can happen anytime.
Yeah.
For Maddison, it's like, this was amazing. This is a special thing, you know.
We need 11. We need 11 Deckies. That's what we need.
Yeah. Well, I just hope, and I think we're seeing a bit of it. His mentality and his thinking is rubbing off a little bit. But I also just hope that he continues, and the way I see it, once Son goes, I think Decky should, if Decky's still around, knock on wood, I hope so, but he should definitely take the captaincy for my money, the way he's going. So, and he's absolutely going to be a world-class player, I'm sure of it, but it's this kind of like stoic, I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm not going to feed on the emotion either way.
No,
I'm just going to do this.
He's a machine.
Yeah.
He doesn't let the negative emotions get the better of him. I just want to say,
and he doesn't get too excited about the wins either, So
exactly. In the chat, Sligo Spurs asked, do you guys think Ange will push hard to get his players to adopt the Decky attitude and headspace? And that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that's something that Ange can really do, other than he's not. I don't think he wants to be headmaster type. I think it's more like he wants them to realize that within the changing room themselves, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think he will actually be quite careful not to play favorites with Decky, I think, because there are, I definitely think Maddison is one of those sensitive types, I thought Richarlison is one of those guys as well, and so on. So, and we can't just say, then off with them, they're hopeless attitude, whatever. No, these are young men. They just need it's part of their maturing. If you go about it the right way, they will open up and take it in and maybe incorporate it. Some have it, Decky is also Decky is of Serbian background or Yugoslavian background, grown up in Sweden. So you have fierce attitude, fierce fighting attitude. Then brought up in the most kind of almost Asperger-esque logic kind of sense-ridden society, and you get a very special person out of it. And then, of course, his relationship with Zlatan has had a big effect with him, I think.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was only literally, back in the summer. So we're talking 4 months ago that some Spurs fans were calling for Kulusevski to be sold. It was when we bought Kulusevski from Juventus that Juve fans were laughing at us for spending the money. They did the same with Bentancur, and it just shows that if you give players
it's
patience.
just a couple of weeks since people were talking about Saar being nowhere.
And Brennan Johnson.
And the thing is, guys, out there, if you're listening, it's like these once you see it a couple of times, that's the potential. That's what's supposed to be there. If it's not there, often it's tactical. Often it's about positional stuff and stuff like that. But also it can be motivational and it can be for all kinds. It can be personal reasons sometimes. Maybe Richarlison was that, and so on. So for me, and this is why I'm always a little bit harder on the manager, because this is the core of the job: is managing all of these things and making it, making sure that we're using Son tactically in a way that Son is the world-class player that we know he is. Making sure that Richarlison gets that hand, that arm around the shoulder, and the space he needs to just feel he can, be himself, basically, and Decky, making sure that Decky gets challenge upon challenge upon challenge as he's screaming for, and so on, so that's the manager, and I do think Hans is very good at this stuff. I've always thought that was probably one of the strongest things he would come in with, and even though he's not famously on the pitch and doing it, it's his regime, his culture, his philosophy. It's very much about utilizing these things, and I hope now that some of the sourness that most probably was taking root in the dressing room has turned and is looking, toward opening up again and listening again to Hans.
So I was actually going to ask you a question about that, which I will. I'm just going to bring you a Dragushin quote after that, when he said, "I think this will only bring us even closer together. We understand that if we stick together, we stick to our principles. If we work hard, we can achieve something very, very important this year." I mean, that sounds Ange-esque in terms of his messaging. And the question I wanted to ask you was, do you think this 4-0 victory really gives Ange now the collateral to go forward? Or do you think it's as simple as reactive as it has been all season, where if we lose to Fulham at home at the weekend, then people will be calling for his head again?
I think they, like in this moment, he has the collateral. I think like the fans, many players in the squad kind of collapse as soon as the going gets a little bit too tough, and then they'll they won't look at themselves. They'll say it's these tactics. This high line is hopeless, or whatever. They'll find excuse like any people. You go into your office, and count the people that's always, "Hey, I completely fucked up here. It's my fault," and it doesn't happen. It's people, rationalize and justify their wrong decisions or their bad performance and so on. And we have plenty of people in the whole club, probably just like anywhere else, But what is the important thing is that the people that don't do that, the people that are brutally honest with themselves, are the people in key positions, are the people who actually take the rein, or sitting with the steering wheel, basically, So
in the driver's seat.
Yeah, in the driver's seat. That's what I was saying.
Okay, well, just before we leave, a little bit of transfer rumor today. Matheus Cunha of Wolves is apparently on Spurs' radar. I have to say, I just want to make a bigger point about this. In general, since Lange has taken over, I'm pretty much always impressed with the attributes of the players that we are being linked with. Is that the same with you, Jorri?
Yeah, I think, I mean, like we've talked about it many times, we have to build it from a young base, and we have to build it from a unproven base. But then if you can get guys like that who are proving the worth in the Premier League already, and add that into it, like we did with Solanke, and I mean that turned out pretty well, I think, and it's only going to go up, I think.
Agreed.
So that should be our blueprint for sure, and I would be chuffed if we could get him over the line for sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, Jorri, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Great chat. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. As ever, if you want to come and get involved in the chat on these live shows, like Sligo Spurs did, like David 17 did, like Ali, you can sign up to my Spurred On community on Big Up. All the details in the description box below. And like I said, I'm doing these daily Tottenham Hotspur news shows live on Big Up. But if you're watching on YouTube, please do give this video a like as ever and subscribe to the channel. And also, you can listen to my content on the audio platforms, Spotify or Apple Podcast. And all the details of how to find me there are in the description box too. But have a great rest of your day. Try and enjoy it. We've got Roma coming up on Thursday night. What could